It almost goes without saying that the first two Lethal Weapon movies were action classics, both well-regarded, well-remembered, and appreciated decades later. I've already done videos on the first two movies, so today I'm going to focus on Lethal Weapon 3 and 4, which were more of a mixed bag than the first two films. These later sequels had some great things and some not so great things, and that's what we're going to talk about today. But before we get into it, my name is Eric Wilfred Watson. I'm the author of the supernatural crime thriller Judas Kissed and the action contemporary science fiction thriller Becoming Quincy. Both of my novels are available on Amazon.com. Your purchase of those books not only supports this channel, but it helps support an independent author. Who knows, you may even enjoy the books. Lethal Weapon 3 starts off with Riggs wanting to go into a building with a bomb in it. There's a bit of an argument, is there a bomb in the building or not? Riggs doesn't seem to believe that there is. Roger insists they wait for the bomb squad, but it's an action movie and these are the hero characters, so of course they go in. Roger reluctantly goes in even though he's only 8 days from retirement. Of course, there's the cliched, which color wire do we cut to stop the bomb? I don't know if real bomb makers use colored wires to indicate which thing does which thing. I would think that a bomb maker would use all the same color wire for all of it, but hey, what do I know? Naturally, Riggs cuts the wrong wire and the clock on the bomb starts going faster. Do bombs actually have colored wires, and are there usually clocks on them? When they cut the wrong wire, the bomb starts to go faster, so they run out of the building, and kaplooey, the building blows up. As a result of this kerfluffle, both Riggs and Murtaugh are busted down to uniformed foot patrol officers. This, of course, is played up for comedy. After tormenting a guy for jaywalking, which seemed a little unnecessary, these cops probably should have their badges taken away if this is the way they treat random people, but this was done for comedy, so we can look past it. They come across an armored car heist. Just by coincidence, there's a chase. It turns out that the bad guy who robbed the armored car was under the employ of a worse bad guy who runs a construction company and is a real estate developer. This rogue employee is killed and buried in the cement for bringing attention where it wasn't needed. More plot stuff happens. An ex-cop murders a suspect in an interrogation room. He doesn't know that there have been recently installed security video cameras, so his face is on camera. Roger stumbles across a crime, and Roger's son Friend, who was shown earlier in the film, is killed. Roger feels terrible about this. It's determined that the gun used in this crime came from the theft of police evidence. Crooked cops are stealing and selling guns and other things. The movie does have a fun climax with a shootout in a housing development construction site. The weak and unmemorable villain with a vague plan is eventually killed by the police with cop killer bullets that are shot through the metal blade of a bulldozer, which is complete bullshit. The cop killer bullets introduced earlier in the film are completely ridiculous. There is such a thing as bullets meant to penetrate deeper. There are bullets that are meant to mushroom or shatter upon impact, but there is nothing that you can fire from a 9mm handgun that can do what the bullets in this movie are depicted doing. If the movie makers wanted an anti-gun message, there were far better, less silly ways to do it. I rather enjoyed the romance between Riggs and the Rene Russo character. It wasn't forced. It seemed like these two would actually connect were they real people. She's a badass, and Riggs appreciates her, and I appreciate her as being a good character, and adds a level to the film that would be missing without her. Overall, the movie is fine. It's mostly forgettable, but it's okay. It's probably the most forgettable of the four movies. There's nothing specifically horribly wrong with it. It just kind of plays it safe and makes mostly boring choices. I wish they had leaned into the demotion more. It would have been fun to see Riggs and Murtaugh as patrol officers trying to solve the crime rather than having the detective badge, but the movie brings them back to detective status so that the plot can happen. The demotion was almost done more for a comedy bit, but when the movie needed the story to move forward, they got their badges back almost right away. It seemed like a bit of a wasted opportunity. If you're going to do it, lean into it and really do it. What I do enjoy in this movie is the progression of the character of Martin Riggs. In the first movie, he's a suicidal widower. In the second movie, he seems to be doing better. He's willing to date again, although his girlfriend dies in the second movie. This movie starts with him a little bit in a better place. He has a romance that seems natural and unforced. He's moving past the death of his wife. In the fourth movie, he gets married and has a kid. With that in mind, let's go into Lethal Weapon 4. The fourth installment begins with a gunman in body armor on a rampage. He has a flamethrower, he has automatic weapons, and we go right into the action. Through highly unlikely exposition dialogue during this opening action sequence, we learn that Riggs is about to become a father, with the Rene Russo character from the previous movie as the mother. Roger is about to become a grandfather. After killing the bad guy and after massive explosions, we cut to almost 9 months later. Martin, Roger, and Leo are out boating and have a good time until a Chinese ship goes by and almost hits them, and then a shootout begins. It culminates in a rather large action sequence where they go ashore, and then when it's all said and done, the cops show up, including Chris Rock, a new character who shows up to investigate. Chris Rock acts rather awkwardly towards Roger Murtaugh. As a matter of fact, Chris Rock is acting a lot like Chris Rock, which in my opinion was a mistake. I understand that if you're going to cast a comedic actor like Chris Rock, you want him to act like Chris Rock, but Chris Rock has proven that he is an actor beyond that. Just watch the season of Fargo that has him in it. He's actually quite good with dramatic acting, which he doesn't really get to do in this movie. Riggs lives with his girlfriend that he started dating in the third movie, the Rene Russo character. They live by the beach. I like that it's sort of an amalgamation of Riggs's mobile home with an actual house. The character interaction between Riggs and the Rene Russo character works surprisingly well. I'm not usually a romance movie kind of guy. When they shove romance into a movie, I usually roll my eyes, especially in an action movie where it doesn't seem to fit. But in this case, it does fit. This is the fourth movie. The character is growing and developing. It makes sense that he would eventually settle down. This pairing seems to work. Those are actually some of my favorite parts of the movie, is when the movie slows down and gives us some character stuff. It really works in this movie, and that's one of the things about the fourth Lethal Weapon movie that really excels. I wish they would have done more of it. Roger Murtaugh is also a character that develops and ages and gets better over time, and one thing I appreciate about his character is the family surrounding him, which were all played by the same actors in each movie. I like that little bit of continuity. It turns out that Chris Rock's character is in a secret relationship with Roger's daughter, which I find a little bit hard to believe. It seems that his daughter and his family life is to a point where his daughter wouldn't need to keep that kind of a thing a secret from her dad. It didn't strike me as true that that's the way it would be in a tight family like that. And of course, we have to bring in the silly. Roger takes in Chinese people from the boat incident. He says that he's freeing slaves, which is true, I suppose, but it seems like there would be an actual legal process for that sort of thing, an asylum process for that sort of thing. I can't imagine a cop wanting to bring in a whole bunch of strangers from another country to live with them, but that's what they did. It seems silly, but you can go with it. His connection to the Chinese characters, especially the father, comes into play later, so that does add to the plot of the movie. The movie falls into the sequel trap where the characters become exaggerated versions of themselves and become borderline superheroes. The later Die Hard movies did this. Unfortunately, the Lethal Weapon sequels do this as well. For example, there is a chase sequence. The hero's car flies through the air, crashes into the side of an office building, plows through cubicles as people in the office building run out of the way. Riggs steps on the gas over Roger's foot to make him go faster through the office building, which is, to use a term my grandfather once used, sheer asininity. Making the whole situation even more asinine, they crash out the other side of the building through the window and land safely on the highway to resume the chase. The car still works, the airbags didn't deploy, the cops inside the car didn't die, no pedestrians were killed. It's all rather silly. We all have to suspend disbelief a little, but this kind of thing is too much, goes too far, and ruins a lot of action movies, especially sequels. While I can appreciate that this action sequence was tough to film, it involved a lot of moving pieces and was shot quite well as far as the cinematography goes, and I do appreciate that it all wasn't CGI nonsense, but the end result was just too silly for me. There is also too much frantic comedy in this movie. There was always comedy in Lethal Weapon 1, 2, and 3, but the fourth movie goes off the charts, and that's not a good thing. The comedy in this movie is more cringy than it is funny. Now, I love a comedy, but I prefer my comedy in comedies. Humor is fine in any genre. The human species is a species that laughs, so any movie that has people in it can have humor in it, but this movie overdoes it, especially with the Leo Getz and Chris Rock characters. One scene in particular is in a dentist's office where they're questioning a bad guy with nitrous oxide while Leo is distracting a dentist with a fake toothache. It's all hard to watch. It's too silly. It feels more like the hospital scene in the movie Basketball than it does an actual scene from a real cop drama. A comedy can play it straight and be funny. A straight movie that becomes silly just becomes silly. Earlier in the film, there was a murder where somebody waiting at a train crossing is pushed into the train crossing, which I thought was rather clever, but they try to do that thing a little later in the movie with Riggs, which is kind of silly because how did the bad guys know that Riggs would be stuck behind a railroad crossing at that exact time in that exact place, and that there would be a train coming in the first place? I frequently applaud a good setup and payoff in storytelling, so the earlier train murder and the second train murder attempt do connect to each other, but the method of the murder is just a bit too illogical for me to accept. There are much better ways to kill characters in a movie than this. The overall plot of the movie involved a Chinese gang counterfeiting human trafficking, but unless the viewer is prepared to take notes, the plot is a little bit hard to follow because it's unnecessarily complex, and when plot points are presented to you, they're often done rather quickly at a frantic pace and details are easy to miss. But that really doesn't matter because it's all an excuse to have gunfights and action, which this movie does very well, especially with Jet Li. The martial arts action is very good. I appreciate the way the movie looks. It feels very Lethal Weapon-y, and I like that about this movie. It's fun. It's just a fun movie, and what more can you ask for? Despite its silliness, which goes too far, it is fun, and I like that. The movie has a charming ending with the birth of Riggs' kid and Roger's grandkid on the same day in the same hospital, because why not? The bottom line is that these movies try too hard. They know what makes these movies work, and they push those elements to the breaking point. I like the musical composition of all four movies. Michael Kamen and Eric Clapton were great together. Kamen is no longer with us, may he rest in peace, but Eric Clapton is. I hope they bring Eric Clapton back for Lethal Weapon 5 if a Lethal Weapon 5 actually gets made. With all that being said, while Lethal Weapon 3 and 4 do not quite live up to Lethal Weapon 1 and 2, this quadrilogy is great, and I love all four of these movies, and they're fun to watch all in a row like I did for the preparation of this video. I'm going to do more of this. I'm going to watch a lot more stuff and rewatch a lot more stuff, do some reaction videos, and my filming companion Hugh Frank will be with us later for some cigar reviews, so please hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any of it. Until next time, thank you for watching Sound and Fury.